I'm Roniel.
I'm DaRon. Really quickly, for those of you who don't know, we have the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act. It was created in the 1980s. It has been amended, I think, like 9 different times, to including by the Patriot Act and a few others. The big thing about it is it allows us to go after almost anyone for almost any computer related crime because it stipulates that any unauthorized or excessive use of a computer or anything of that nature, be it federal government communications, interstate communications, or financial, now you can go through and go after them under the CFAA. Where this runs afoul of a certain type of security professional, and I put that in quotes because they're not professionals, is when you start talking about what the fuck do they call it, Ron? Not the responsible disclosure, but those idiots who go around just compromising people's systems and then claiming they were doing it as a
What security research? Not
yeah,
that.
yeah, but they always say they're doing it. You remember that idiot who got thrown in? That it was a woman. She got thrown in jail recently because she
Yeah,
compromised the system, put crypto mining software on it, and then claimed she was testing their security.
yeah. Oh, is that really a? I thought it was the disclosure thing.
It is, but they call it something, don't they? She only did. See, here's the thing. They only do responsible disclosure in those cases once they've been caught. Then they're always like, "Oh, I swear, I was just testing your system for vulnerabilities." But it's really the people who run around doing like the bug bounties and things of that nature. They're actually one of the biggest offenders. But what people don't understand is, I'll give you a perfect example. So years ago, I had a doctor client. He came to us because he was going through a messy divorce. He got his computer back from his soon to be ex wife, and he wanted us to check to see if it was bugged. He also wanted us to check to see if his phone was bugged. So I went through, I did a bunch of forensics on it, and I said, well, she took it to a professional. They pulled your hard drive, not very well. They imaged it, and then they ran forensic. You're gonna love this. They ran their forensic software on the original hard drive, and not the image. So I see all of what they were doing, and they were pulling all the passwords off of the computer and everything else, all of his emails, everything. Now, you have to understand they were married at this time. So technically, the asset is owned by both of them. So she is legally allowed to crack her own passwords. She is legally allowed to back up her own computer, and she is legally allowed to compromise the security of this system, to include bug it, which is what she did. But the second they get divorced, that right disappears. So we go through, we tell him, hey, she took all your data. They went through, logged into all your bank accounts, and were pulling everything they could. They did all of this stuff. You need to change all your passwords. He did not listen. I don't know why he didn't listen, but he didn't listen. Okay. So, come a year later, and he comes back to us and he says, my ex-wife, at this point they're divorced, just showed up on the airplane. He went and took his kids on a spontaneous trip down to Disney World. She showed up on the airplane and she's actively stalking me. She divorced him. I want to be very clear. Okay. She purchased a seat in the same aisle as him. And then she purchased the hotel room next to his hotel room. So that the entire time he was on this trip with his kids, while he had custody, because of course it was shared, She was there throughout the entire park ride. And he's like, well, I want to know how she did this. And I said, did you change your pass? I'm sorry, this is just too bad. Did you change your passwords? He said, no. And I said, well, that's how she probably got in. And he's like, no, you don't understand. I made a new account. This is separate email. We were like, okay, but she bugged your computer. Did you at least remove that? No, I didn't remove that. Okay, well, that's how she got in. So we go to the police, and I hand over. But what I did was I pulled email logs from off the server, and we tied the IP addresses to the email activity to her. We gave it to the police. We found he had moved, which was good for us. So he had, of course, he lost the house, right? So he had moved, and he'd moved to another city, and we were very friendly with the police there. We knew them well. So we talked with the police, and then we talked with the judge, with whom we were also friendly, just to pave the way and make sure that the prosecutor, judge, and police were all willing to accept this case. The reason being, anything under the CFAA is federal. And so it can get complicated and sticky really quickly. But we actually were able to successfully go after her for violating, number one, wiretapping, and number two, the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act. And we hit her on both of those, and we also hit her on stalking and menacing stalking, or stalking with menacing intent is what it's called. And she wound up actually pleading out, which was good, because it got her to leave him alone. It's the weirdest thing. She divorced him just to hound him. I don't understand that. But she was logging in constantly to his bank accounts, to his email, to everything, and obviously to his computer, and constantly just pulling all of this data from him. And it was only because of the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act that we were able to really get her, because unfortunately, while this is a travesty because it does result in people dying, stalking charges are not that big of a deal. It usually winds up being a misdemeanor. And the wiretapping that she was doing also wasn't that big of a deal relative to the CFAA. So under the CFAA, we were able to hit her with actual felonies, federal felonies. And that is what it took in order to get this to stop, because he actually had his lawyer send a cease and desist. He had the police department send a cease and desist letter telling her that she needs to knock it off. It meant nothing to her. She just kept going and kept hounding him. And if you think about this, because so right now we're talking about a male who was being stalked by a female. But imagine if the roles were reversed. Obviously, there's always the threat of violence, even if it is in a stalking situation, even if it is a female stalking a male. However, if it's a male stalking a female, that potential for violence, physical, sexual, what have you, is substantially greater. And it's absolutely important that we be able to go after criminals who, for example, drain your bank account, which, oh, by the way, that gets hit under wire fraud. And then you wind up hitting them under usually bank fraud, and you'll hit them under the CFAA as well. So you get them on three things. That's absolutely vital, absolutely important. You don't want to just hit them on one thing. That's unfortunately not the way the legal system works. I mean, when the cops pull us over, what do?
Oh, yeah. They ain't getting this for everything. Yeah, you black, you're a drug dealer, you're this.
That's
you're
right.
Doing that.
I'm a drug mule, you're the dealer.
Yeah. Not really, though.
No.
No. Yeah, we're not.
No, we're not.
Somebody would definitely think, no. But by the way, the thing is security research.
Yeah.
The girl said she was doing
That's what they call themselves.
Yes.
Which is bogus. Honestly, that is a field that ticks me off. It irks me, because all of the people I've ever seen who call themselves security researchers use it as a license to just rail against testing systems they have no authorization to test against. And that's why they get hit with the CFAA. And that's why they then say, oh no, this shouldn't allow it. And I'm going, it only matters if what you're doing is unauthorized or in excess of what you were authorized. If I'm a valid user of this computer, that doesn't mean I'm allowed to go through and see the other user's data. It doesn't mean that I'm allowed to go through and compromise the system and make myself an administrator. That's where the CFAA comes in. There are very few laws that you can hang your hat on. And you could say until you're blue in the face, well, let's go through and make more. But I mean, you've seen the laws that they make now. Do you really want them making new laws?
No, it's stupid. A lot of the laws that they come up with are dumb.
Yeah, they have no clue what they're doing. I'd rather stick with one that's tried and true and is honestly well tested, and instead tell our field to get its act together and start trying to act like professionals than saying, oh, well, the law should specifically. Imagine this. Imagine if you changed the law so that there was an exemption for security researchers. What do you think people like this woman would go through and do?
They would just be malicious. What would make them any different from the underground?
That's exactly right.
Hackers. The hackers out there, that would be the same thing.
Yes, you're a black hat at that point. And you can claim you're not, but that's what you are.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that she was installing crypto mining stuff just says you're doing malicious shit.
I know.
Like, that was way, way far gone. So, like, the laws are in place for a reason. That's why we have laws, to keep people under, control, because you give a person an inch, they take a mile.
Right. And what these security researchers don't understand is my property is my property, and I have a right to not allow you in it. Just like my house. You shouldn't be able to come in just because you want to test my house's security and steal all my stuff. This is what she did. She stole all their stuff, installed crypto mining software on it, and then when they caught her, she came back and said, haha, look, I stole your stuff. I'm a security researcher. I mean, imagine if you're a thief. You break into someone's house, you steal all your stuff, steal all of their stuff. On your way out, they catch you, and you're like, I was just testing your security. Should that be made illegal?
No, you're basically a criminal at that point. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't have authorization to do it. And even now, people who have authorization, they take it even further.
Right.
And then they go outside of what they were approved for. So, if you really want to do this stuff, do it legally.
Right.
Become a consultant, a penetration tester, and do it the right way. There's no reason to go to jail to do this stupid shit. Like, there's just no reason. You can literally get paid a lot of money doing the stuff that you love to do without being malicious.
I agree.
But a lot of people have a malicious mindset. They want to be the hacker.
Yeah.
They want to be that, like you see in a movie. And that's not how it really is. It's not.
Yeah.
But it's still fun. It's still awesome to do. It's just downsides to it. But I mean, this security research shit is just went out of proportion. All right. You're not a security researcher. You're none of that. You just become a black hat, a criminal at that point. So if you really want to do it professionally and do it right.
That's right.
Follow the rules of engagement. Follow the rules.
Right.
And there, you'll have fun, make you some money, and live a happy life.
That's right. And you know what? I'm sure you've run into instances where you sat there and you were doing a test and you're like, man, this thing is full of holes, but I'm not allowed to touch those parts. I can't touch those. And you just write it up in the constraints. You write in the constraints, hey, this doesn't look great. I had one against a popular web firewall that I recently had where they're vulnerable, and I noted that they were vulnerable, and I wasn't trying to test them. I was trying to test the service behind it, but they started responding to what I was doing. Their firewall started, unfortunately for them, responding in very bad ways. And I had to stop doing what I was doing because I don't want to get in trouble. And so I wrote in the report, hey, I wrote, this is a vulnerability. You guys need to look into it. We then talked with the organization. I told them, you know, you have two options. Well, three options, really. You don't report it is the first option. You report it is the second option. And we report it on your behalf as the third option. And I believe they're going with option number 2. But we didn't test it further. I didn't see if I could completely compromise that entire network. Could I have? Probably. But I didn't have authorization to. So when their server, when their firewalls were screaming, we stop, we move on. Next attack.
And that's another reason why I don't believe in going too far. You know, I know people believe because of the network pen testing, post exploitation, and see what you can get, and some of that may be acceptable. But I still feel, unless it's an emulated environment, that if you're doing it in a real environment, that there's some chance you can touch somebody's data or get something you're not supposed to, and then it becomes a problem. Right. That's going against my privacy.
Right.
You know, and I feel when it comes to application security, you don't need to take it that far. I mean, you literally, I think they get the idea how far you can go, unless they put specifically in scope, we want you to do this. If it's not in writing, I'm not going that far.
Right.
I'm going to show you, hey, got a reverse shell. I can do this. I can probably go and do more. I got admin rights. I got privileges. Yeah, I know it doesn't stop at the admin and domain admin, but what is the point?
Right.
I've already proved my point here, and I know I can go further, but what is the point?
Right. Yes, you'll see people, they'll sit there and they'll compromise some of the back-end servers, or they'll compromise the client, and then they start pivoting. And I'm going, that is not in scope. You should not be doing what you are doing. You've already, as you said, you've already proven the point. You dropped a shell or got a tunnel or whatever it happened to be. It's done.
We're not attackers.
Right.
All right. We're stimulating an attack, but we're not an attacker. So we don't need to do that. Like, everybody wants to be Mr. Robot. Everybody wants to be these people. Like, that's not what we get paid to do. We're getting paid to find a vulnerability and help them remediate it. The biggest part of our job is to help the client remediate the finding. Find it before the attackers do and remediate it. That is the biggest portion. Right. And most people can't even do that. They focus more on trying to pivot, show how cool they are, but really don't focus on remediation. So again, that is not the end goal. And also not the end goal to be poking around in other people's network you don't have authorization to be doing. But otherwise, you meet Mr. DaRon here, who puts your ass in jail.
And I will do it with a smile on my face and saying you were unprofessional. And those are people I want out of our field, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't want to see the men in black.
No, you don't.
Trust me. Literally. So, you know, and he seems to be one of the best in the field. So, you know, I would just say, you guys, if you don't want to see the men in black at your door, do the right thing. Like Spike Lee, do the right thing. Right? But either way, this is why it's important to follow the rules. And we wanted to, there's a lot of people that don't believe in it, but that's because they want to break the rules.
Right.
And we don't believe in that here. So please, if you're in this field, any field, follow the rules. Okay. It'll keep you out of jail. You won't be in jail with somebody who wants to take your goodies.
That's right.
So please follow the rules. But this has been our segment. I'm Roniel.
I'm DaRon.
And if you like this episode, for more episodes like this one, please like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. Till the next time.
Have fun.